for watching my webinar this morning. And as promised, I am recording a summary of what we spoke about, taking out the trivial stuff and leaving the most important stuff. So here we go, enjoy. And please contact me afterwards if you need any more information. So the future of tourism. Parallels between climate and COVID and the regenerative circular systems. What I did was I took some of the latest news items off Facebook and off the newspapers just to show what's been happening just in the last few days. Starving polar bears, people on the top right, that's actually an old slide. They're trying to get cool, that's all. They're lying on the pavement to get cool. And many were diagnosed with heart attacks when in fact it was really heat stroke. So medics are being taught to know the difference. The slide in the middle is the most terrifying of the lot. That is this last week in Canada. And what is so frightening is the shifting of jet streams. Jet streams and ocean currents actually affect our weather. And if that changes, it will be completely out of control. And this is the highest temperature ever. Granted, this is Death Valley, but this won't be unusual and the highest ever. This is just the beginning of a shift to days that are so hot that human beings will not be able to survive, and nor will a lot of other mammals. So it's actually time for change. BCE is before the Corona era, PCE is post-Corona era. And tourism as we know it will change. In fact, it is already changing. Tourism as the vanguard. In fact, it was tourism that triggered the green movement in South Africa many years ago, but it was the tourists who came in and asked us what we were doing, and we didn't have the right answers. So vanguard means a group of people leading the way in new developments or ideas. And in this talk, we'll talk the parallels I promised you, climate and ecocide, the reports, the targets, and the goals that we're all being told to try and meet, cutting the hype, which I think puts so many people off, tourism post-COVID, responsible, sustainable, or regenerative, all these labels we've had, and the circular economy, which is the new hype, the new trending vocabulary, and then just something to end off, some optimism and some cool ideas that we gleaned. After an adventure, my gap year after school in London, Canada, and America, I ended up in Los Angeles during the hippie era. And California has always been light years ahead. And this was 69, 70, 71 through to 74. I worked for the Environmental Protection Agency, which was the beginning of my environmental journey, and that's 50 years ago. I worked for a company doing research into what was causing trees to die in Los Angeles and into solar power 50 years ago. And look where we are. So little has changed. Came back home and found myself against everything. I'm a Montessori teacher. Can you imagine me in the corporate environment? I was employed as the contacts and purchasing manager for the Tsoko Sun, in those days the Southern Sun hotel chain, for 82 hotels. And it became my mission, having learned what I learned in California, to find a greener version of every contract I worked on in that purchasing manual. When I left, after having been patted on the head for 15 years and called the little green queen, I actually left and started an online directory called Hotel Stuff. It's a pity it says hotels because everybody uses it now. Just to share what I had learned with the small establishments, with little boutique hotels and the guest lodges and the bed and breakfasts. And Al Gore's movie came out, An Inconvenient Truth. And I thought, you know, people will try and listen to what I'm saying. And we launched a second website that backed onto Hotel Stuff, called Green Stuff. And we knew which of the companies were trying to make greener products. Nothing is 100% green. So we started listing. No one else was doing this. In fact, I think we were one of the first in the world, just doing the best we could based on honesty and sharing ambitions with the manufacturers. 21 years old now, supposed to be a hobby, actually. When I left Southern Sun and moved to Cape Town, it exploded. We get 33,000 people use these websites every month. We don't make any money. They're like yellow pages and free to use. And the suppliers who can afford it just pay a fee, an admin fee to be listed. Please use them. They're there. And if you know people with products, let us know. So this led to me speaking. I didn't know speakers could get paid. I'm a teacher. Eskom actually adopted us to run workshops for them. And that's how the whole thing started. Hotels started calling me back and saying, what are you talking about going green? And I would run workshops for them. And started doing really, really a lot of fun consulting. In a moment of madness, I realized that hoteliers needed to touch, see, and feel what we were talking about. And we started building green mock hotels at the big trade shows and mock homes at the big trade shows. And I ended up being a judge. So these were the talks we started giving. Never planned, never part of the thing. And this has become my career now, is a professional global speaker. Some of the hotels we consulted, this is Hotel Verda in Cape Town near the airport. If you're nearby, go there. Ask for a tour. It is absolutely phenomenal. They have got solar, photovoltaic. They've got a natural pool at the back. They grow their own veggies. The lift uses its own energy. All the operating equipment is eco-friendly. And in the front, you have wind turbines. And they even have geothermal. So ask for a tour and they'll take you down into the basement and show you all the amazing machinery. And soon, I think it'll be completely off the grid. It's just won another top international award. It's one of the greenest hotels in the whole world, in our own Cape Town. So what we do is we will walk through a hotel with you, or we will do it online, and we'll just, nobody's delinquent, and nobody's been bad. Nothing's 100% green, nothing's 100% bad, but there's always a better way. So we'll say in each room, we'll stand back and we'll say, next time you need to, whatever it is, paint, recarpet, buy new amenities, change your menu, look at your recycling. Let's not look at the way you used to do it. Let's see if there's perhaps a better way to do it. And just hold your hand through eventually turning everything as green as you possibly can in an establishment, a hotel, a hospital, a home, an office block, anything, a school. And this always makes me laugh because I can't actually believe it. In the last 10 years, 20 awards I've won. I think sometimes it's because I'm the only person who does what I do. And that's, I'm 78 now, and these started when I was 69 years old, so the last 9 years. So at least people are acknowledging it. So the parallels that I promised you between COVID and climate change. COVID is actually an interruption, and climate change is a disruption. COVID is a dress rehearsal for climate change. So comparing the two, the similarities are both are deadly, both gave us advanced warming, both have denialists and conspiracy theories, both have shown up how bad social inequity is, both have caused food shortages, both say the cure is worse than the problem, and both know no borders. The differences are vaccine. The corona has a vaccine, yes, climate doesn't. No vaccine for climate change. The arrival for corona was very quick. Climate is creeping up slowly. That's why people aren't taking it seriously. The response for corona was really quick. Climate, so slow. Reversible, yes, corona is reversible. No, climate will not be reversible beyond the tipping point. Strategies for corona were really clear, what we had to do. Climate is unclear because people can't all agree to the same solutions and mitigations. Mitigation for corona was very aggressive. For climate, it's just not taken seriously enough. Notice how, in these comparisons we're looking at, for climate, it is almost worse. Every time it is worse than it is for corona. Action on corona is global. Action for climate is regional. It desperately has to become global. The pollution decreased with corona and of course increases every day with climate. The effect, the economic recovery for corona is possible, yes. Climate, it will just get worse. The effect, corona is affecting the elderly. Climate will affect absolutely everyone. Avoidance, yes, we can avoid corona. Climate change will be impossible to avoid. In fact, there's a wonderful little animated video made by two people that escaped to an island thinking, it's a wonderful story, thinking they would escape climate change and the challenges that they have to be self-sufficient. If you want to know the link, just give me a shout. It's a lot of fun. They're quite short. Biodiversity, with corona, it improved. Obviously, we know nature recovered all over the place. Climate, it is getting destroyed every day. The effect, it kills humans. Corona is killing humans. Climate change will kill everything. So what frightens you the most? These are the sort of things that are frightening people. My son's a physicist and his artificial intelligence is quite scary. And for the sake of this talk, we're only going to look at climate change and ecocide. Most of you who attend this are already the converted, so I won't spend time on this. But those who want a course, please give me a shout. I'll run a full course for your team or for your network on what climate change really is, what causes it, and the effects that it is having and what we can do about it. People need to understand. They're only going to really do something once they really understand. Now, what is ecocide? Ecocide is ecological collapse caused by capitalism. Growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of a cancer cell. This upsets me and keeps me awake at night more than climate change, because it happens every day and we have more power as citizens to do something about it than we do to do something about climate change. We all should be doing something everywhere, possibly as much as we can, just to save our ecosystems. Eco means life, and we are destroying the very thing that supports life for us. The planet will survive, but we won't. So the reports, the goals, and the targets that people are trying so hard to meet, and people are making it so difficult. We have the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which has said within the next years we have to reduce CO2 by 50%. And by 2050, we have to have zero emissions. We are way, way behind that target. And the Paris Agreement, where most of the countries agreed to try and keep the temperature rise below 1.5 degrees higher than it was before the Industrial Revolution. So we had green tourism, responsible tourism, sustainable tourism, and now we've got regenerative tourism. I've always said sustainable is not the right word and searched for the proper word. So sustainable actually meant, you can get all the details on these charts on Google. Sustainable means do no harm and leave it as it is. And regenerative means leave it better than it was before. And 20 years ago, at one of the first big functions where I spoke, and I was invited to sit on a panel discussion, the moderator said to me, what would your dream be, Lorraine, for hospitality? So I said, if a hotel was built somewhere, and then eventually it was closed down, I would want that area to be as it was before they built the hotel, and perhaps even a bit better. And I was laughed at. I was laughed at, patted on the head, and called a hippie. Well, thank goodness it's here now. So regenerative tourism. Look at this website, absolutely wonderful. Future of Tourism. They have 13 guidelines. I worked with Global Sustainable Tourism Council, and they have a pledge And some of the people that we've worked with over the years have signed that pledge. A good summary. There's a lot on the internet, but this is quite a good summary. So I'm not going to read everything to you. I'll go slowly and you can just read these slides yourself. There are 13, and these are the basics of what we're calling regenerative tourism. See the whole picture. Ecosystems, natural resources, community settings, everything is a whole, everything works together and needs to be in balance. Use sustainable standards. So this was, I was talking about the GSTC standards, just something you can tick off. Collaborate in destination management. Everybody should be sharing in how a destination and a venue and the region are managed. Even the volunteers, for example, and the private sector all should have a stake. Choose quality over quantity. Quality of visitation, not quantity of visitors. And try and sustain the character of that area. Demand fair income distribution. So share the money that comes in equally so that everybody benefits. Support entrepreneurs in that area. What the manager at Hotel Verde did is he tries to buy everything they eat for supper within a radius of the hotel. And there's a blackboard that tells you how far your tomatoes traveled that night. And if he can't find something, he encourages local farmers to grow it and helps them. And they supply the hotel. And then support refugees and the homeless in some way with your leftover amenities, your leftover, your tired linens or whatever, or even shelter. Reduce tourism's burden. So all those costs must be reduced for the benefit of everybody, and ensure that any investments improve the local communities and the environment as well. And remember, we're not only talking about wild areas and nature and safari lodges and that, we're talking about suburbs. A hotel in a suburb, or when an area is gentrified, you have to consider the people who were there first. You can't move in and change everything and spoil what used to be their well-balanced and happy home. Redefine economic success. It's not only about contribution to the GDP. You must look at business development and start looking at inclusive local supply chains. Teach people to make things. Start a skill center with sewing machines so people can start making the linen. I used to buy all the linen for Southern Sun from Moy River and from Zimbabwe. Beautiful stuff. Now it's all from China. That is ridiculous. We should be opening little factories. They can be little home factories everywhere. Buy the raw materials and let the people stitch them up and make them for us. Mitigate climate impacts. This is what we know. We know all these things. Reduce greenhouse gases, reduce transport emissions, agriculture, start circular and sustainable procurement. That is my specialty. Sustainable procurement and supply chain management. Made so complicated, actually so easy. Close the loop on resources, so no plastics. Some of our projects that we had, I'm sorry I didn't show you any pictures there. We would have built a mock hotel or mock home at one of the big trade shows. There'd be not a single piece of plastic. Right from the front door through every room in that house or hotel, through to the landscape garden and the solar panel at the back. Minimize your waste, and remember the locals are the best guardians of biodiversity and natural systems. Honor the wise old people. Contain tourism's land use. Stop high occupancy tourism. I actually think it's dying out. I think over tourism, hopefully, is at an end. Those dreadful cruise ships. I can't actually think of a holiday worse. We went to Alaska and these big chrome and glass cruise liners would sail past us, people sitting in chairs looking through a glass window at the scenery. We went with the ferries with the lumberjacks and their huskies. We had much more fun. Those people might as well have been at home watching a video or watching their television. Discourage the sprawl and look after the geographical character. Save the character of a place when you move in. And then look after the critical, obviously, ecosystems is what we're worried about. diversify source markets, encourage domestic tourism. You know, I had to come back to Joburg after having lived overseas and in Cape Town for many, 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 many years. And I had to come back here. And I kind of resented having to come back here. And then I thought, you know what? Let me rediscover my own town. I want to tell you, I looked at art gallery is amazing. The Rand Club, the zoo, our parks, the museums. Joburg is fascinating. And the developments, the gentrification downtown, incredible. So raise citizens' perceived ideas of their own area, whether it's natural in the countryside or in the city. Protect the sense of place. This is what we're focusing on here, as what we're talking about in regeneration. So protect all the natural stuff and obviously the cultural assets, and honor the ancient wisdom and traditions of people in that area. Enhance the destination keep its identity and its distinctiveness. We have to bear in mind that you can't just take these guidelines and apply them everywhere, because every region is completely unique. You'll have something completely unique in Durban, or a forest in Nasa, or the grasslands, or the Highveld. So honor the differentness and the uniqueness and apply different guidelines. And then lastly, operate business responsibly. Reward those that are supporting the principles, and then develop strong local supply chains for your hotel. Most things can be made locally, and begin job creation and start opening factories everywhere. So this is a quick and a very nice graph explaining regeneration. So on the left, the old ways we used to degenerate, we used to take, extract, use, and spit out. Then we started going green, bit more wind. Then we had sustainable, where the development sustainable goals currently sit. Then we went to restorative, and now we're going to regenerative, where we're going beyond keeping things as they are and actually making them better. My speciality, conscious procurement and the circular economy. When people build a building or they want to make a green product, they look at energy, water, and waste, and they think that's it. They build a building and they put a solar panel on top, and they put a water tank outside and some recycle bins, and suddenly now it's green. We forget about everything else is being neglected. Slowly, people are starting to wake up and realize every one of these things needs attention. So this is what we specialize in. Choosing the products is so confusing. So what we do is use the life cycle analysis, where you look at everything you use every single day impacts the environment. Everything you play with, you work with, you eat, you drink, you sleep on, you wear, you drive, impacts the environment. So have a look at it, and then go through its life from where it came, when it was sourced. Imagine you're explaining this to a little child, and I'll tell you, you'll be challenged. You'll keep saying to it, why did you do it? Did they ruin a forest? Did they impact the indigenous people? Did they leave a mess behind like the mines do? During the manufacture, did it pollute the air or the water? During the assembly, did they use slave labor? Did they save energy and water and reduce waste wherever they possibly could? During the distribution, how did they package it, and how did they transport it? We've got to bring the train system back. During the installation and the use, did it impact and damage wherever it is used? Did it make people allergic? Did it pollute more? Did it destroy bees like Monsanto's, Bayer's Roundup that is sprayed on all our maize? The only country in the world where our staple food is genetically modified and sprayed with poison. Bayer has lost so many cases from people getting cancer from Roundup, and they just pretend it's not happening, and yet you can still buy it in the shops here. I mean, it's criminal. And then finally, the thing that worries most of us the most is, how do you get rid of it? How do you get rid of it? Can you bring it back in, or is it just going to get thrown away? So that's where the circular economy mostly focuses on reducing waste. In the old days, we used to use something, throw it away. Then we bought something, and then we recycled it for a bit. We kept it out of landfill and out of the sea for a while. and then we threw it away. And the circular economy is trying to keep it in that loop as long as it possibly can. By not having to get fresh resources all the time, reusing something. And I'm a little bit afraid that focusing on trying to keep plastic so that it's okay to keep making plastic. I'm not so sure about that. But there are some absolutely phenomenal things being done by some of the big companies, lots of greenwashing being done, lots of window dressing. You know, look what we do here. Meanwhile, this is poisoning everything, but we're doing this wonderful thing here. And then we clap, whereas they should have done that from the very beginning. So they call it the R's. We know the three: recycle, reduce, reuse. We've known these for a while, and I think people are pretty aware. They've added rethink, refurbish, reduce, repair, reuse, recover, refuse. There are about 200 other re's. If you look in the dictionary, really actually fun. So look at what you're making, what you're using, what you're selling, and see if you can apply any of those. And rethink, for example, is Uber. Refurbish, we can refurbish an entire hotel from front to back rather than replace. Reduce, reuse the weight of something. Reduce the toxins in something. Reduce, there's a bicycle, for example, made from aluminium, but it's so light you can pick it up with your finger. Reuse, especially in hospitality, there are so many things you could reuse. Recover what you can rather than throw it away, bring it back. And of course, simply refuse. And then if you're looking at accommodation, for example, this is your whole value chain of tourism, your booking agent, the transport. How can you apply these things to transport? Accommodation, look at the materials. Look at your cleaning materials. What could you do there? Amenities, the linen. Linen should be also something that has long life, is green. If you buy flax, it costs a fortune to buy it. But flax will outlast polyester cotton by up to 12 times. In Italy, you can buy antique flax bed linen in antique shops. And it turns beautiful. The older it gets, the more silky it gets. Furniture, fix it. Don't replace it, fix it. And all the other things that you can think of. Step back and have a look at everything you use and keep it in circulation in that hospitality venue as long as you can. And then just for fun, to end off with a slightly optimistic and cool vibe, I looked at trends and I listened to, I'm addicted to Zoom. I'm so curious by nature. I watch something on Zoom every day and I exhaust myself. So I've been watching panel discussions. One of the most fascinating ones was the Luxury Hotel Association, I think they call themselves. Some of the CEOs of the big chains are there, and just some fun things that are happening. And also, lots of these things make an establishment greener, more environmentally friendly, less expensive to run, and attract a new kind of traveler. So we've always known slow travel, but it's becoming more and more popular. An ethnic experience must be sincere and genuine. I've actually done that. We did a trip down the Amazon. One of my husbands, my first husband, my traveling husband. I loved them all. I'd marry them all again. We blew these blowpipes. They are so accurate. It's phenomenal. But they put curare on that little dart, which paralyzes you. And they were paranoid that we might get this black substance up our noses or into our mouths. Digital nomads. The minute we got laptops, I traveled with my laptop everywhere, and I would always travel by train so I could work or travel or take a holiday and be online all the time. Smaller groups, one of the biggest trends is, as I said, over-tourism is dying. Tourists go home, they're saying, and they really mean it. Big shift now to smaller, even a shift to individual traveling. Camper vans are back. Wonderful adventures. Spartan holidays, people minimalizing their lives. My daughter's a minimalist. It's amazing. I wish I could be. I'm just impossible. But what a lovely way to have pack that tent up and just we did long ago, my hippie days, we did a trip right through America with a tent trailer. Everything we fitted everything old in the world fitted into a tea chest. Even our waterbed, we used to empty the waterbed and fold it up into something and into the tent trailer, and off we went. Revenge tourism really saddens me. This is such an interesting psychological trend. The yobbos are so fed up with lockdown and restrictions that they've become so angry. This is in the Lake District. They go, they destroy the environment, they break things, and they set up camp. They get in their cars, drive away, and just leave everything for somebody else to clear up. Very sad. Disaster tourism, another interesting psychological trend. These are altruists who deliberately go to places that aren't getting tourists because they've had a disaster or there's been an infestation or something has chased the tourists away. And they go there, A, to support tourism and to do something to help. And I met two chaps from America, California, again, an actor, and who had two teenagers with them. And they were traveling the world. Their website was called 12 in 12. And they were visiting 12 countries in 12 months. And every country they visited, they worked as volunteers to do good in that country. I met them on a train. What fascinating family. And I'm going to look forward to their book one day. Flipscam means you're embarrassed to fly because flying is so environmentally unfriendly. And I just hope trains will come back. I think they'll come back big time. Flight to nowhere, that's fun. A Michelin dinner on a plane, fly out, eat your dinner, and fly back. Or fly low over something like the Great Barrier Reef. And once when I was in South America, we didn't have a visa to see Iguazu waterfalls. And the pilot heard, we were just ordinary passengers. He heard we'd missed, and he deliberately did a low flight over the falls so we could see it through the windows before we came home. And this I love. Nomadic holidays. These are old containers that have been converted into a room with a bathroom. And they get put on the back of a truck, all driven somewhere, plonked down, and then you stay in this beautiful environment for a couple of days. You can stay with them or you can log on and log off. And then they put them back on the trucks, drive off somewhere else, plonk them all down, and you've got a little mini hotel in a new location. And then accommodation. We all know eco hotels. I've carried on about Hotel Verde, visit it, or just look at it online. I think they've opened one in Tanzania as well. Pod hotels. Oh, I don't know, we'll see. I don't know if I could actually do that, but it's a brilliant idea. And this is one of the biggest trends. When I sat in on that panel discussion by these leading tourism operators, they were saying this is one of the biggest shifts, is people looking for wellness. So on your landing page on your website, put this on there, that you have a wellness facility or you're running courses in wellness. Just be careful who's doing the mindfulness calling. I've got a friend who's a psychiatrist, and she said people are not trained to actually teach mindfulness. You need to understand the psychological challenges of some of the people who do it. Vegan, I think that's fun. I would find that. I mean, I'm not a vegetarian. I'm too South African for that, but I do choose where my meat comes from. Very, very fussy. I think that would be lovely. Staycation, where people can't go away. So they're either staying at home or they're going to the hotel in their suburb just to have a bit of a break. Leisure means you go away and you combine work with leisure while you're away with a bit of a break. Workation means people formally meet at a vacation resort to do work and at the same time relax and enjoy the environment. Schoolcation is quite new and I think quite brilliant. The parents who are exhausted and tired of home schooling their children, some hotels, brilliant idea. So many of you listening to this could actually try this. Just turn a boardroom into a classroom. They have a internationally trained teacher just to monitor and direct the children, because they're all working on something different at a different pace, and give the parents a break. I mean, parents will stay at home and send the children here. if it's very properly, the guidelines are properly followed, or actually give themselves a break and stay in the hotel. Vacation, you're very welcome, my dears. Off you go. I'll watch from a distance. Luxury bunks, that's a good idea to get more occupancy in less space, but they need to be luxury. You don't want it to look like a backpacker's lodge. It must be comfortable and classy. And glamping, look at your property. You might have plenty of space where people could pitch a tent. This is a way of getting revenue without any effort. And then let them eat in your restaurant and use your washrooms, but stay in their tents outside. I think it's a lovely idea. And then I just picked this up. Gregory Henderson sent this to me 2 days ago. Brilliant. People are fascinated by food. I'm a foodie. I mean, I eat exactly what the locals eat, and I eat in their restaurants. And he's done a study and has specialized in foraging for food. You know, South Africa has such interesting biomes. So here you have different foods in all the different regions. So he's developed recipes and special trips to explore. I think that's great. I'd love to do it as soon as we're allowed out. Another course that I run started Kenya. Kenya is light years ahead of us in their sustainability, or they were. I think we're catching up now. But a couple of years, I had a look at climate change on Africa specifically, and our wildlife in Africa. And animals, do you know, are moving 14 feet a day away from the equator. In the north, they're moving north away. In the south, they're moving 14 feet every day. So we just need to start moving fences or allowing animals to get to higher altitudes to get away from the heat. So I ran a full workshop, obviously not going to do it now, but where we look at your town, your hotel, your food, the factory, your supply chain, because we've learned with COVID, you lose one link in your supply chain and your product's stuffed. Agriculture must be turned on its head. All things that we in tourism can do and need to look at for our own safety and the safety of our guests. You know, is your town ready for flooding? Can the water soak away, or is it all concrete so that it floods? Is there enough shade if we have a heat wave? And then the last two of particular interest, your emergency pantry and your emergency survival kit. There are two kinds. There's you need a pantry if you're stuck at home, or if you have to get out, you need different foods. And if you have survival kit, if you're stuck at home, you need a different kit to if you have to rush and run away and get out. So be disruptive. This is what I've done. They used to call me the ankle biter because I just carry on nipping away until people listen. So this little girl, as I said in my talk, she's autistic. Asperger's on the autistic spectrum. And as a teacher, we used to see these children. She's a genius. She can answer absolutely anything you ask her about climate change. That is her focus. That's all she can do. She doesn't hear the noise. You can carry on. She actually doesn't even hear it. And she would have died because this is what she had to do. If her father hadn't finally given in, her mom and dad were absolutely desperate. She'd seen every doctor and psychologist possible, and she was just fading away. And her father said, okay, I'm going to let you do what you want to do on condition you can answer any question I ask you, which she did. And once he let her out, start her pilgrimage. She's a different person, as you've seen. So perform and carry on. We learned this during my time in California, against Vietnam, against women's lib, for women's lib, against environmental, against civil rights. We marched. It works. So march like these people did and join Extinction Rebellion, for example, if you've got the energy and the time. And the call to action is, people always say to me, what can I do? What can I do? Well, as an individual, I'll come to that now. The big stuff has to be done we can't do the big stuff. The politicians and the big corporates, they have to change and start increasing carbon tax, renewable energy, changing the agriculture, rehabilitate forests. You can't plant new forests. Actually, you can plant plantation. Forests take hundreds of years to grow. Carbon capture is a bit controversial, but I'm sure they'll get it right. And geoengineering is a bit sort of science fiction-y. You know, imagine spraying the clouds with silver and then learning too late that it's not working. But they've got to start researching and working and making these changes. And then we can do what we can do, and we really can be very powerful. So do the usual stuff. Reduce your fossil fuels, eat less meat, eat organic, refuse plastic, all that stuff. But sign petitions. You know, as I said this morning, we stopped genetically modified vegetables being put in baby foods in South Africa just by signing a petition. And then sponsor the people like Greenpeace. They do incredible work, and they desperately need your support, your financial support, and boycott. Head and Shoulders was boycotted for a while in America. It was quite quiet, actually. And Procter & Gamble got such a fright that they changed the ingredients. And of course, whenever you possibly can, vote for the right people. So the children are watching you. And one day they're going to say to you, what did you do? Thank you, everybody. Give me a shout, please call me. Let me run these workshops for your team or for your network on any of the topics I've discussed today, including food. I didn't cover food today. It's what we do and what people need to hear, that it's not complicated. It's really quite easy once you know what to do. Thank you very much. Info@hotelstuff.co.za. Thank you.